Alrighty, so I have a huge problem with my water cooling on my PC, and I actually checked it, so the water pump is no longer working. So what we are going to do today, we actually gonna get rid of the water cooling, the CPU water cooling, unfortunately, and we gonna install a Hyper 212 EVO V2 air cooler. And so the first thing in the video, I've just speeded up a little bit. We are going to detach the water cooler. The cool thing is the water cooler actually comes with a system fan. That's the fan you see here right at the back of the housing, which I'm going to take out now. So we are actually going to reuse that fan. And also we are using the other fan on the other side of the water cooler, because and you're going to see that later, the air cooler I have ordered actually comes with a bracket for a second fan. They do not supply the second fan, but since it happened that we have that one RGB fan here anyways, we are going to use it. Next thing you see here is we are just detaching the pump part, and actually the part which attaches to the CPU, so which actually made the cooling, if it still would work for the water cooling. And it's a little bit fiddly to get that off, and you want to be a little bit careful not to break any screws there or to damage the main board. And I could have taken out the graphics card, but actually I did not take it out for the whole process, so it still works. And next part would be that we are just having a look at the water pump. So you see that's the plate, the copper plate, which was actually touching the CPU. Next thing what we want to do, we actually want to clean the CPU later. That is the the air cooler I've just bought. That's the one we are going to install. You see it's pretty massive. It's 155 millimeters in height. And it comes with this one fan. And as you're gonna see, we are installing a second one. Right now I'm just checking if it's has enough clearance, height clearance, which it has. And next part, we actually want to take care a little bit more of the CPU. As you see, there is still that grease. That's just a kit which actually came with fan, so you need a lot of brackets, you need a lot of screws, and then there is a counter plate which goes to the back of the main board. You're gonna see as well how we install it. By the way, this cooler works with AMD and also with Intel CPUs. And now I'm just unpacking all the stuff. These are actually the two brackets we would need to install the fan. I have never installed any fan, air cooler fan on a CPU before. So that is just a little bit of fiddling around since I've never did it. But the first thing you want to do, I bought this cool paste or contact paste for the CPU. So, and it came with like alcohol clean wipes. So that's pretty good, because then you can clean off the old heat paste from the CPU, which you want to do before we apply the new heat paste. So that's what I'm doing right now. And I'm also trying these screws. And I was actually wrong at the beginning, so I showed this on purpose. I thought I could use the counter bracket on the back of the main board, which came with my water cooler, but it turns out, and you're going to see that later, we can actually not use that. But at the beginning I was hoping I can use it, but apparently you cannot. So that's why I actually had to take out the original counter plate or counter bracket. And you see I've taken it out already, and that's the correct one. That's the one which comes for Intel and also for the AMD CPU. So right now I'm just checking if it works or not, and I'm going to show you in the next part of the video how you can actually install that. As I said, I've never did it before, but once you did it, it's pretty easy. it's a pretty short manual which comes with a CPU cooler, but it turns out it's pretty intuitive. So right now you just have to put in these kind of threads which go through the main board, and then you have these black brackets which actually hold these little screw threads in place. So that's pretty easy, and that is the bracket. And I'm going to show you a little bit more close up now how you install these threads. So you see, you just put them in here, and then you want to put that little black bracket just on top of it, and that's kind of fastening it. And you have to do that, of course, for all four corners. And once that's done, we actually go back to the motherboard, and then we stick it through the motherboard, and that is the counterplate on the opposite side of the motherboard, which actually allows you to install these brackets for the CPU cooler. It's a little bit of fiddling, but as I said, if you did it once, and I just did it once, if I ever have to do that again, it's actually pretty easy. Now you see that's the back side of the main board, and now you just want to put it in here, and then you want to make sure that all of these four threads are actually go through the main board, and that's the counterplate where we are later, and you see it right now, are installing the CPU cooler. Next thing would be that we install these metal brackets, but before we do this, we have to install these spacers. I'd say I would call them spacers. So you just screw them in here, these spacers, and they give you the clearance from the cooler to the CPU and for the heat plate. So you just have to wait. By the way, at the beginning, when you install them, you cannot tighten them really flush to the main board. And I first thought that the cooler might be a little bit wobbly later, but once you install the brackets, that's going away. So do not be scared like I was if it's a little bit shaky and wobbly. Now I've already installed one of these brackets for the CPU, and it's also a bit scary because beneath the left one, the left bracket, there are actually some capacitors, and I actually was scared, and you see that later when we install the cooler, that it might punches into one of these capacitors, but apparently there is enough clearance. And now we have to install these nuts on top of it. And next thing you want to do, so first I just checked actually if the cooler fits and if I did it right. What I actually found out, I have to change the position of my RAM because the RGB RAMs are a little bit high, although the air cooler has enough clearance like you see here on one side. By the way, if you want to install it, you have to take off the fan as you see here, because you want to reach that one screw to fasten it on the board. So that's pretty easy, and to clip it on later. And as I said before, I'll show you the whole process. So I did not cut anything on purpose. So even if I make a mistake or do something wrong, I want to show you that on purpose. Now you see, now we're gonna fasten these screws, but be sure not to actually over tight them. So always, how should I say, be a little bit gentle. You have to tighten them fast, but you don't want to tighten them too hefty. And since I'm dubbing that video, I guess the next part would be where I might figure out that I have to change the position of my RAMs. It still would actually fit with these RGB RAMs, but I found out it's just was easier for me to install the cooler, including the fan, by replacing or switching these RAMs. So that's and here I just made sure that really the CPU is really like clean. And then later, if it comes to install the heat paste, it should be the size of a pea, so don't overdo it. It's just like a drop like you see here. And you don't have to smear it around, because that's once you push the air cooler on it, it's actually should distribute itself like automatically, like you see here. You cannot see that in detail, but we just put the air cooler on top now, and once we screw it down, it actually should distribute the heat paste pretty evenly. And you see later, before I installed that CPU cooler, we had 100 centigrade, so 100 Celsius of heat on the CPU. And after I installed that cooler, even when I was running games, it has just like 63. So we cool it down by 40. So that's pretty cool. So the heat paste works. And here, that's how you install that air cooler. And actually, these two screws, they are actually stopping at one point. So be pretty gentle, and you are gonna find out when they stop, and then then you find out it's tightened enough. So next you're gonna see how I try to attach the fan, which actually came with the cooler, and that's the moment I figure out that it's maybe a little bit better to replace the RAMs or change the order of the RAMs. It's pretty easy. You can clip that cooler on, but you see here at the top I had a little bit of a problem to get it flush, or at least situated as I wanted to. So that's why I actually replaced the RAMs. So you see, if you take the RAM out, it's just easier. Do not forget to plug in your fan. So I plugged it in actually at a port which is called Sys2, so which means System Fan 2, but that should be labeled on your mainboard. That's pretty easy, and modern mainboards, they have maybe 4 or 6 connectors for fans. Mine actually also had a connector which I'm no longer using for the pump, so for the water pump. So that's pretty easy. And now you see I changed the order of the RAMs and also for the RGB fans. So I pushed them a little bit further right. So we have enough clearance here. And that basically would mean that you already have installed your cooler with the fan and you would be good to go. But as I told you, I had a spare fan, not just lying around, but there was the spare fan which we had from the water cooler, and it's an RGB fan. And since that kit of my Hyper 212 EVO V2 came with brackets, with extra brackets, that's why I've decided to disassemble the fan from the water cooler, which is this one. And now we're gonna install the brackets which came with the cooler. It's not just the brackets, it also 4 screws came with that. So I have to say the Hyper 212 EVO V2 kit, it's pretty good. So that's how you install the brackets. There's not really much about it. You really just tighten it fast on your existing fan, or if you bought a fan extra for it. And then you're gonna see in a few minutes that you can actually attach a second fan. You maybe want to make sure that you position the fan in the right position. What I mean by that, so that it's sucking the air through the cooler. I just remembered the position it was before on my water cooler, so I couldn't make it wrong. Now you see, you just can actually clip it to the air cooler. What I found out, it's a little bit wobbly, and I was always wondering why there are these 4 little rubber pads, which you see here, which came with the kit, and they have a adhesive tape on the back side, and it turns out they are exactly for that reason, so that you can attach the fan really flush and really tight to the air cooler. So you just want to place them like I do here, like so, and that kind of helps you once you put it back on to the cooler, that it's pretty snug fit, I'd say. And so I did honestly not measure the cooling capacity, if you want to say so, with one fan and then with another fan. But since I've decided I use both of the fans, I'm actually just be happy that I have the two fans on it, since I had the other one. And then I just want to make sure that these brackets are really tight at the cooler. So that's what I do here. I just double check the brackets that they have a snug fit. And that's basically it. Now we should be good to go. Don't forget to plug in that other fan. And first thing I have to say, since my other one was kind of broken, it was crazy loud. Now, even having just an air cooler instead of a water cooler, it's less noise than I had before. And now you see also the clearance of my RGB RAM. So it's pretty nice. System is running good, and now you can see that we just have if we are in idle mode, like 41 centigrade, and before my computer had always 100 centigrade because there was literally no air cooling or no CPU cooling. So it's actually how it looks installed, and we have enough clearance in the computer case. So I was actually a little bit afraid that we do not have enough clearance, but that's absolutely not the case. So you really don't hear it anymore. Before it was loud like hell, but that was because the water cooling was totally jammed. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to disassemble the water cooler in another video, and then we just have a look what maybe went wrong. But so swapping this one out was pretty easy. It actually came with that one fan, and we could harvest the other fan actually, which I already had, which means we have 1, 2, 3, 4 fans now, and that's actually also a fan which was attached on the opposite side of the water cooler. And so we should be good now. Before I had a package temperature, which is the CPU, of 100 Celsius and more. Oops. And now it's less. So now what you can see, we have a CPU temperature around 40 Celsius now. And before I actually had 100 and more because my water cooler did not work anymore. And it is super silent, and I have the feeling that the fans are actually controlled as well by the system, so that's pretty good. And we could have a look here. Give me a second. So the cool thing is my computer is actually automatically overclocking. Usually it runs with 3.7 megahertz, and now it's overclocking itself. That is pretty cool. And now let's just see the cooling wizard tool, if we can start that. And now you see the two fans, which are this one and this one, this one and this one. They are attached to the main board. These two are actually attached to a different control unit. But you see the system fan is running really slow. Before, the pump fan was running on 3,500 RPM because it failed. So I'd say mission accomplished. And now we have this gigantic air cooler in here, and I no longer have the problem with my water cooler, which didn't work anymore. The pump did not work. Pretty sure this one here where the pump is clogged, but we are gonna follow up in a next video to check that out. Okay, so final test, we're gonna play Forza, and we want to keep a watch on the package temperature. When I uploaded Forza the last time with a water cooler, it was 100 centigrade, and now we are at stable 60. Now let's just see once we are in the game how it changes. I'm hoping it is stable. So we have 64, that's okay. And now we are running the game. No, I just cannot steer because I'm filming with one hand. But that doesn't matter. So we are running it butter smooth, and you see we stay in the 60s. Mission accomplished.